What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, week 16. The championship is so close you can taste it, and you are here for some lineup advice, or you started Sincere McCormick and you need somebody to yell at. Either way, Club Fantasy has you covered. No Joe Zolo this week, but Josh and myself are here to give you that advice. Are you ready to tinker with your lineup 800 times between now and Sunday? Let's get into it. Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. No Joe Zolo this week. I am your host, Ryan Weisse. With me, as always, Josh Hudson. Josh, it's been so long since I've hosted this show. I was half a click away from hitting the wrong intro video, but I caught it. Thankfully, I had my page skewed just enough that I could see the No Punt Intended video, and I did not screw it up.
You know what can't be any worse than the intro that I just did in recording our Oh Captain, My Captain, where apparently I hit it and then stopped it about 2 seconds in only to restart it again. So, yeah. A+, Ryan, A+.
Hilariously, as I'm panicking in the background, I'm like, well, I would have just stopped it and played the next one. So we might have had back-to-back of the exact same terrible intro. But like I said, I was sliding up the intro videos and just was like, no, that's not the right one, and got to the next one. So quick thinking on my part there. What wasn't quick thinking was Sincere McCormick, Josh, though. I did warn people. We were all in.
Like, yeah, we get, quote, bailed out because he got hurt, right? But, like, honestly, at least for me personally, he just, like, personified a week of absolutely terrible start-sit calls for me. Like, I had a couple that I was like, all right, cool, great, awesome. But, like, telling people to go Bo Nix over Jared Allen or Jared Goff,
yeah,
there, right? Like, it was just one thing after another. Didn't think James Cook would do all that well. Didn't think Jared Goff would do that well. You know, highest over-under on the slate was going to be a big letdown. They weren't going to come through. What the fuck?
I was actually thinking about that a lot this week because I poured a lot of water on that game, Josh, and obviously they turned that water into acid because they just went off, plain and simple. And it's honestly, I haven't even talked to Josh about this yet, the person I run our website with. It's made me question my matchup report. And like, I need to do better because like the matchup said these quarterbacks could struggle and then they weren't struggling. So there's a lot to get figured out there. And again, I'm not going to like stop writing the article because I also looked and like the tight ends, the ones I said were going to do good, did good. And the ones that didn't do good, didn't do good. So the match report has its value. It just got the quarterback one right.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like you can look at all the numbers in the world. Defenses sometimes just come out flat. Offenses sometimes come out flat. Like, it's just a bad game plan. And the coaches get egotistical and forget how to take advantage of the matchups where, you know, people actually do thrive. So.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, it's saying the same thing about the Philly-Washington matchup this week, which means expect 70 points and start everybody.
Yeah. So. I'm doubling down on a certain commander, and I feel like it's going to blow up in my face. And you know what? I'm prepared to eat that crow.
All right, folks, before we get into it, let me pay some bills. But if you guys have questions, we have segments to this show, but we are going to answer questions throughout the show. If we are here trying to get you into the championship, drop those questions. We'll get the questions answered. No Joe tonight, but Josh and I are here, and Joe has a whole paragraph he needs me to read out loud to yell at myself later on. But before we do any of that, the championship is a week away. Have you guys gotten your belt yet? Have you gotten your trophy yet? Have you done anything yet to support your champion or support your commissioner or make fun of the loser? If not, check the link in the description of this video. What is it? Trophy Smack / WOFF or /. I don't think there is a back or a forward when it comes to websites. I think you can do whatever the hell you want, but do the one that you use in websites. WOFF. We get a little piece of whatever you guys buy. It helps us support women in fantasy football. We send these wonderful ladies to the Super Bowl, the combine, the draft. And we do that with our own money. And if we can use a little bit of your money, it would be very helpful. So, yeah.
Technically, it's not their money. It's just money that Trophy Smack gives to us.
Exactly. Your money that Trophy Smack gives us. But anyway, make sure you guys check the link in the description of this video. Great stuff over there. A lot of cool stuff. I see a lot of faces in the comments already. Welcome. If you guys got the questions, get them in there. Josh, let's start with those NFL news and notes. And the news that broke my heart. Josh and I have done 3 shows together this week already, but David Montgomery out for the season, MCL injury, except, Josh, did you see the news today that he is now seeking a third opinion and they have not put him on IR yet?
You know what? I commend him for his stubbornness.
So do I. Because I need him back next week.
He is not ready to give it up, and I love it.
He wants.
I also really love the heartwarming Instagram stories with him and Jahmyr Gibbs and the whole, showing like Sonic holding knuckles and all this kind. It was great. I loved it.
All our best to David Montgomery. The most important thing, come back next year. I have some teams that are probably in their last year of contending, and I need you back on them. So let's get right for 2025 there, Monty. It was a week of QB benchings, Josh. Jameis Winston will sit in favor of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Will Levis will sit in favor of Mason Rudolph, and Kirk Cousins. For 3 weeks, Josh, you and I said the Falcons cannot make this move. Kirk Cousins benched for rookie Michael Penix Jr. What does this mean for the Falcons, Josh? A lot of people are wondering, can you start your Falcons with Michael Penix? Drake London has obviously been a very startable asset, even with Kirk Cousins playing poorly over the last month. And Bijan Robinson has been a top 5 running back. Does Michael Penix change anything?
The water on this phrase was, can't bench Kirk Cousins, but if he keeps sucking like this, you absolutely can, because holy crap, he has not gotten any better. I will say, if you were going to do it, this is the week to do it when you play the New York Giants.
That's true.
That is a team ready to combust. They do have a good pass rush, but that pass rush has been pretty non-existent over the last month of the season. Whereas the Falcons pass rush has finally started to get going. So I think that their defense is going to be able to give them an opportunity to set up Penix to succeed. Shorter fields, better field position, all those things will come into play. The biggest question is still going to be the Atlanta Falcons offensive line is dog shit, straight up, plain and simple. So Penix is going to have to get rid of the ball quickly, which he showed in college that he can do. So I'm excited to see how this is going to play out. I'm also very excited to see maybe Penix can unlock Kyle Pitts. I mean, who knows at this point?
There were people who liked Penix, plain and simple, coming out of the draft. There were people who didn't like him. The Falcons, you can't be worse than Kirk Cousins was, plain and simple. Like, it's going to be interesting. Josh, it didn't make the news and notes, but Patrick Mahomes listed as a full participant in each of the last 2 practices, despite this mid to high ankle sprain. So maybe we don't see Carson Wentz this week. But speaking of the Giants, actually, I need Carson Wentz this week. Long story. I need Carson Wentz this week. Brian Daboll announces Drew Lock is going to start. So despite, why did I just blank on his name? Tim Boyle coming in and unlocking Malik Nabers, they're going to go back to Drew Lock, Josh. Apparently they saw the Falcons starting a new quarterback and just thought they should as well.
I mean,
Cardinals,
look, Tim Boyle is not a starting quarterback. I can tell you that right now. But
neither is Drew Lock.
At this point, I don't know that Drew Lock is either.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just the Giants right now are playing for draft seeding. So
yeah,
whatever works, whatever floats your boat.
We'll
here's
see
what happens. I'm really curious if Brian Daboll even keeps his job. I'm curious if Joe Shane keeps his job. Because again, and I feel like not necessarily because it's New York, but how they handled the draft and free agency on Hard Knocks, that amplified this situation so much more than it would have any other time.
They look like idiots, and that's not New York is not the place to look like idiots. Too much media. Exactly. Cardinals give Budda Baker a 3-year extension, $30 million guaranteed, $18 million average value. Younghoe Koo heads to the IR. And Sincere McCormick, as we mentioned, was a fun 3-week period. Nobody probably even got a chance to start him. He goes to the IR. Josh, what a week 15, but we got to focus on week 16. And we already have some questions in the chat. Pardon my throat stopping on me while we're trying to get this thing going here. Iconic Thrive. Should we take Ladd out of the taxi squad? He's been saving him down there this entire season to bench DK, Cooper, or Jaden Reed. I think the first question is this Amari Cooper? Because if it's Amari Cooper, I'm making this move immediately. If it's Cooper Kupp, because I know a lot of people are panicking there, Josh, I might be able to let this ride at least another week to see if he actually needs Ladd McConkey.
So I first want to say it is damn impressive that you managed a first-round bye in your Dynasty League, losing Christian McCaffrey and Dak Prescott. So that's the first thing. So Iconic Thrive, hats off to you, buddy.
Yeah.
The first thing I think you have to consider here, anytime you're pulling somebody off a taxi squad, who am I dropping?
Ooh,
right?
Great point.
So maybe there's somebody deep on that roster that is just like, all right, cool. I've just kind of been stashing him. It's no big deal. We can put him on waivers and I can pull Ladd up, right? To that, I would say, why have you not pulled him up if that's the case? DK has been struggling. He does point out it's Amari Cooper, and Jaden Reed has also been struggling. I'm making this move 1,000 times out of 100, honestly, because right now Ladd McConkey's the better of all three of these.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's Amari Cooper. It's a move that has to be made, plain and simple. If it was Cooper Kupp, I am not panicked about Cooper Kupp like some others are. Amari Cooper, it's full on panic. Honestly, with all three of these wide receivers, these are not top 20 wide receivers, and Ladd McConkey is. You can't fuck around in the playoffs. Get your best guys in there. So, yep. Make the move. Drop whoever you need to drop. Mr. Magic, Darnold, Stafford, Purdy. He's feeling iffy about Darnold and the possible weather that they're going to be dealing with in Seattle. So you got Stafford taking on the Jets, and Purdy, Miami. And that one's going to be in Miami, hopefully not dealing with any weather down there in South Florida, Josh.
These weather narratives on a Wednesday, I don't want to entertain, right? People were so scared off by the Kansas City Cleveland game and the bad weather. That really didn't affect the game much, in my opinion. Like, I know there was only 28 total points scored, but
they were right to be scared off, just not for the
weather. Well, yeah, I mean, they were right to be scared off, but like Jameis was still throwing it. He was throwing it so much, he threw 3 of them to the Chiefs. Yeah. So, and then Mahomes gets hurt, you don't expect a backup quarterback, even if it was a former MVP runner-up in Carson Wentz, to come in and do what Carson Wentz has been able to do. So, like, I'm not going to worry too much about potential bad weather right now. I'm still going to ride with Darnold. I think he's been the hottest of the bunch. It's going to be cold in New York where Stafford's going. So, I mean, if you're really kind of scared, like, Stafford's a LA guy now, a former Dome guy in Detroit. Like, he wasn't the one slinging it in cold weather, bad weather, whatever it is. I mean, if weather is really what you're worried about, stick with Purdy, because Miami's defense ain't all that. But I'm sticking with Darnold. I think he's got the best set of weapons, most consistent quarterback of this bunch of late. That's where I would go.
I have Darnold and Stafford close. I'm going to go Stafford. Spoiler alert, Stafford's my stream of the week. But for all the reasons Josh said, I see what you're saying. Don't fret on weather this early in the week. Wait and see what weather looks like Saturday.
Bring this question back on Saturday. That's
for anyone new in the chat, we do a start sit show every Saturday from 11 a.m. Eastern to 12. All we do is answer your questions. Make sure you guys tune back in for that. So right now, Josh is saying Darnold. I'm saying Stafford. We'll see if that changes at all by Saturday. Mr. Magic back again. Kenneth Walker is out. Does he continue to roll with Sharps against that Minnesota defense? Or would you play Keenan Allen or Devonta Smith over Zach Charbonnet, Josh?
Devonta Smith tends to dominate the Commanders. The passing attack finally woke up. I don't know if they're going to repeat that. I think it's going to be a big Saquon week, just because they just wanted to get that game out of their system and just prove to everybody that they could throw the football. I think I would actually lean Keenan Allen here. He's been, in my opinion, the most consistent Bears wide receiver. He's the one that is seeing the most consistent targets and putting up the most production when Caleb Williams gets to that point. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and compare the Bears offense to the Bills offense, but the Lions can basically field a starting defensive team on their IR. And we know that Caleb Williams is not afraid to throw it. So I don't see a reason why Keenan Allen can't have 60 yards and a touchdown at least.
Yeah, Minnesota is a scary rush defense. Other than Atlanta just 2 weeks ago, they have shut down some very good running backs. DeAndre Swift, 80 yards, 90 total yards, no touchdown. Obviously, the Atlanta running backs ate Minnesota alive. Touchdown each, 63 yards for Tyler Algier, 92 for Bijan Robinson. The issue is Zach Charbonnet is not Bijan Robinson. James Conner, just 68 yards. DeAndre Swift in week 12, 30 yards. Tony Pollard, who was hot at this point, 15 yards. They held Jonathan Taylor to 48 yards. I don't think the Minnesota defense is to be trifled with. Josh, I agree with you. I think you have to go wide receiver in this matchup. And I'm probably going to go Keenan Allen too. For everything else, as bad as Caleb Williams has been, he has at least seemed to understand that his most reliable wide receiver is the old man. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just, in my opinion, there's not a quarterback that Minnesota has to be threatened by in Seattle right now. Geno Smith isn't doing anything. If he's unable to play, you're dealing with Sam Howell. They don't have to, drop 7 in the coverage, right? They can keep 6, 7, 8 in the box if need be and stop Charbonnet.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely fair.
I want to bring this up really quick before we move on because it kind of goes back to the Ladd McConkey question. So I talked about this a little bit on our DFS preview that's going to drop tomorrow morning. Ladd McConkey is mostly out of the slot.
Yep.
Don't worry about this being a tough matchup for wide receivers. Denver's pass defense is great because of Pat Surtain. He's played all of 30 coverage snaps in the slot. That's it on the season. Ladd McConkey has 53 out of 87 targets that have come in the slot. So when you boil it down, it's basically almost half his production has come out of the slot. They move him around so much, he's not going to see much, if any, Pat Surtain. You will be fine starting Ladd McConkey against Denver.
To Josh's point, if you go back to the game against the Browns, everybody ate. 9 for 235 for Judy, 8 for a Bill 11 against Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was coming out of the slot a little bit there. Jacoby Myers traditionally plays out of the slot, 10 for 121. This is just 2 weeks ago. Ray McLeod is kind of the slot guy. This is kind of his start, 6 for 46. If Ray McLeod can hit 6 for 46, Ladd McConkey might double those numbers. So let's not worry too much. Honestly, I think the Denver defense against wide receivers is being overblown. Let's not forget Zay Flowers went for 127 and 2 against them. The week before that, Jalen Cochler and Xavier Legette both scored touchdowns. This is one of those narratives that held early in the season. It's not so much to read into later in the season. So great call outs there. Josh, I think we're going to see questions like this with this man's name about 800 times this week. Is Brenton Strange going to be the guy we're going with over the established player, Dalton Kincaid? And he throws out there that Freiermuth, Hunter Henry, and Tucker Kraft are also on waivers. I'm just going to jump in on this one right now. Brenton Strange is my stream of the week. Brenton Strange is my tight end 6. There are 5 tight ends that I would play over Brenton Strange. Not one of them appears on this list.
Yeah, it's Brenton Strange for me too. He has filled in admirably for Evan Ingram. And I've said this before, he's actually played the Evan Ingram role better than Evan Ingram has. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not afraid to dial up Brenton Strange. Yes, it's the fantasy playoffs. No, he hasn't done much this year. I think he's like tight end 30 on the season. When you break it down to the starts that he's had, he's been a top 10 tight end when he plays. Dial up Brenton Strange.
I'm going to give a shout out to Britt Flitt, who wrote our free agency article earlier in the season. And she had a very positive blurb on Brenton Strange back in week 7 when the Ingram injury started. Or no, when Ingram was coming back. She actually advocated holding on to Brenton Strange. And I went out and added him a bunch of dynasty leagues, Josh. I think there's something to this kid. He looks good. And let's put it bluntly, the Jaguars are going to need to make some business decisions after this year. And there's a chance Evan Ingram isn't on this team. And all of a sudden, Brenton Strange is the starter.
I was going to say, and they just gave him an extension too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Could be interesting. Well be. Brenton Strange, check your dynasty waivers if you're not in a dynasty with me. Might still be sitting out there. Daniel needs help in the flex. Jacoby Myers, Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, Jerry Jeudy. He's facing a team That is Justin Jefferson, Brock Bowers, Mike Evans. He has Lamar, CD, Nico, Mixon, and Brenton Strange. Thanks to us. Love to hear it. Plus, he has James Conner, and James Conner might fucking feast this week because Trey Benson is now dealing with an injury as well. So in this flex, he has a very strong lineup, and he's facing a equally strong lineup. But honestly, Josh, a lot of these guys could possibly struggle this week outside of Mike Evans. Jacoby Myers, Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, Jerry Jeudy. And he did mention, I believe, full PPR in his next comment. So
yeah, I mean, I think the consensus is going to lean Jeudy. I want no piece of Cleveland with Dorian Thompson-Robinson there. So Judy's instantly out for me. Pollard's a little banged up. He's going against the Colts. It's not a bad matchup. He did okay against them their first meeting this season. Dowdle's going against the Bucs. The Bucs defensive line has looked a lot better the last month plus of the season.
They have been a roller coaster of good against the run, bad against the run, and now back to good against the run. So
yeah, honestly, I think I would lean Jacoby Myers here. I think he's got the best combination of floor and upside. It's looking like Aiden O'Connell's going to play. That tells me that they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit, especially with Sincere McCormick out. And plus, they have Bowers, you have Myers. It's going to be a fun back and forth to see where those targets actually go. But I like the potential upside there with Myers simply because I'm very down on Joe Mixon this week, which we'll get to a little bit later.
If everything remains the same and Tony Pollard is just a song and dance of we're sitting him down and we're resting him, we're doing that, I'm probably going to start Pollard just because that's what the Titans have been doing. If there's anything to Pollard slowing down, and that's going to just, reading the tea leaves coming back on Saturday, I'll go Jacoby Myers. I was going to say the same thing as you, Josh. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. They understand Jacoby Myers. It was scary for 45 minutes on Sunday or Monday. It was scary.
I think it was like 55 minutes. I don't think he caught anything until the last drive.
And he still finishes with 10 fantasy points. So Jacoby Myers is the guy there. He has the safer floor. Pollard has the ceiling, and I'm going to lean ceiling. But again, I'm going to be paying a lot of – I have Pollard in a league myself, so I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to Tony Pollard. Dilemma. If Bowers does not have Aiden O'Connell back, is it out of the question to bench him for Calvin Ridley? Any week, but this week, Josh, I would say yes. I hate the Tennessee Titan wide receivers this week. They are my downside. I would still start Brock Bowers over Calvin Ridley.
I would as well. You can't convince me to sit the tight end one. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it.
I'll do it for Trey McBride.
It's an embarrassment of riches that you have both Bowers and McBride. So sure, even if you sit Bowers, you're still covered at tight end, but Bowers is putting up wide receiver numbers most weeks. So and it's too good of a matchup against the Jaguars, plain and simple.
Yeah, it's just not one I'm willing to make when they're not going to be terrible every single time they go out there.
That's true.
Yeah.
I will say, I think it was the first start that Mason Rudolph had. Like, that was one of the first games where Calvin Ridley absolutely exploded.
Oh, that 2-touchdown game. I remember that game.
Yeah. And I know you're down on the Titans receivers this week. Colts defense has kind of been hit or miss, I think, against wide receivers. But it's just, I don't know. There's just so much with that offense right now that feels so discombobulated that I just really don't want to put my championship hands in that Titans wide receiver room right now.
Yep, I agree. Riley Patterson, not Cade York. Cade York's in Cincinnati. Just thought I'd throw that one up there. I didn't know if it was a part of a question when I started, but it's Riley Patterson who is going to be kicking for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep. Listen to Ryan. He's good at ranking kickers.
Number 4 last week.
There you go.
Anthony, what do we think about Tyreek with Jalen Waddle out? I'm going to be honest, just found out Jalen Waddle was out as I was reading this question. What do we think?
I don't think he's been officially ruled out.
Okay.
I can check this really quick, but he did leave early last week with a knee injury.
Yeah, he did not pop up on my out report on my rankings yet. So that's where I was like, oh, did I miss this? So what do we think about Tyreek? I guess let's start with that. Does this do anything for you against San Francisco?
San Francisco's pass defense is terrible.
I agree.
It really doesn't worry me at all. The Dolphins know how to play against teams that are under 500, so this works in their favor, and it's a home game. So there's that.
The one thing I'll say is the 49ers are a team that has shown us they also know how to, when it was the Tyreek Travis Kelce thing, they knew how to high-low Tyreek and take him out. Now, they don't have the same players that they did back then. And
it's also a different scheme because it's a different defensive coordinator.
And a different quarterback who looked awful last week. I think Tyreek's going to be fine. It's unfortunate, Josh. I thought we were going to see one of Tyreek's pop-off games to end the season, and I'm starting to feel like we're probably not going to.
Don't put that juju on him.
Yeah. However, he does have a flex question. Rico Dowdle, Khalil Shakir, Adam Thielen, full PPR. Josh, I'm interested to see where you'll say with this one.
I think the safest is probably Shakir. He's the wide receiver that's been on the field the most for the Bills. Allen keeps looking his way. He's throwing the ball to him quite a bit. I think of these three, to me, Thielen has the most upside, though. I know we saw the, Jalen Coker kind of explosion. All that was because he had an 83-yard touchdown. So I'm not utilizing, the 110 yards to be like, oh, he's so involved in this offense.
He's the man.
Yeah, 3 catches for 30-something yards when you take that big touchdown away. So Thielen's still that guy. Cardinals do play pretty solid defense. Hopefully we're not getting another 4-turnover Bryce Young game. But he's been the reliable target for Bryce Young and this Panthers offense. So I think it's easy to say Shakir because he's in the better offense, but they just spread the football around so much that he could very easily end up with 6 for 36 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And that's just not sexy to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've pointed out numerous times, Khalil Shakir is more the PPR guy. This is a PPR league. I'm probably going to stick with Shakir just because give me the guy who's tied to Josh Allen if I'm
that's
trying
fair.
to win a playoff
100%.
game, so
100%.
JSN or Cooper Kupp. I am not worried about the Rams this week. I think they're going to do well against this Jets defense. Josh, I am not sitting Cooper Kupp despite the goose egg that he threw up for fantasy managers last week.
Yeah, and I think that's the only reason that this is a question, but also too, JSN has been a top 10 wide receiver this year, so it's kind of hard to want to choose between these two. I'm still going to lean Cooper Kupp. I don't love Geno Smith. I don't love this passing offense. They're racking up yards, which is great. They're not scoring a ton of touchdowns through the air. Cooper Kupp has much greater touchdown upside. And I would rather chase that.
To be fair, as I'm looking at JSN's numbers, he does have touchdowns in 3 of his last 5 games. So even with them not scoring, what I was going to put you on the spot, Josh.
I think he only has 5 touchdowns a year, though.
Yeah, I'm wrong. He has 2 of his last 5 games, not 3 of his last 5. I got stats mixed up. But regardless, I was going to put you on the spot, Josh, with does it matter? What if it's Sam Howell? Does that solidify Cooper Kupp? Does it make it better than Geno Smith? I can't imagine it makes it better than Geno Smith.
It just tells me that they're going to have more incomplete passes that get completed to the Vikings, but that's all.
Yeah. William Watkins, new name, I believe. Welcome to the show. Bo Nix. It's not Geno Smith. Bo Nix. Wait. Okay. Oh my God. I saw Cooper Rush and read Cooper Kupp, and I'm like, is this your super? Like, what is happening here? I'm eliminating Geno Smith from this question because he's fucking me up here. Bo Nix, Cooper Rush, Drake May, Josh. Sorry.
I think I would still stick with Bo Nix. I'm not ready to give up on him after a 3-interception game. I do like the potential of Cooper Rush this week. We talked about it. I believe it was on yesterday's show.
Yep.
This has the makings of a sneaky shootout, especially in the passing game, because both of these secondaries kind of suck. And Dallas is 1-6 at home, and they're playing in Dallas this week.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stick with Bo Nix, but I like Cooper Rush, and I do like Drake May. I do.
So all 4, Rush and May both appear on my stream of the week list. I give you 5 options every week, but they are 3 and 4 behind Stafford and Rodgers who are facing one another. So I do like all of these picks, but all of my stream of the week picks fall below Bo Nix in my ranking. I'm not going to sit Bo Nix for a stream in the semifinals. I think the kid bounces back even on a short week. It's a short week for the other team too. So I'm not going to panic on Bo Nix.
And it's in LA. It's going to be nice and sunny. It's going to be good weather. So
exactly. He's back on the West Coast. He's at home.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Santiago has to decide between Kenneth Walker and Sharbs, who to start between them or to go to Tyjae Spears as a full-on pivot. I have them both ahead of Spears still, Josh, unless I hear more about Pollard. I understand what Spears did, but I talked about it. He did pretty terrible in the running game. He just had a highlight reel touchdown.
Yeah, and then he got carried in the end zone, floating through the air.
So that's kind of inflating him. And obviously he was nice in PPR and scored that receiving touchdown too, but you're also not going to get your ass blown out every week by the Bengals. So those things aren't always going to be playing in their favor. So I'm probably going to lead on one of the Seattle running backs, even though I was shit talking the Seattle running backs. At this point, I'm going to go with the healthy guy and play Charbonnet.
Yeah, I mean, whichever of the Seattle guys is healthier, I'm going to assume that it's probably Charbonnet. It doesn't seem like Walker is trending in the right direction. I think it's easy to get blinded by last week with Spears, so people just kind of assume that that's going to happen again. I don't think it will.
Yeah. Jay, I'll see if Josh wants to throw an answer out here, but I'm going to preface this question with, we are not the DFS guys here. That would be our good friend, Austin Amendolia. Austin and I will pre-record a show tomorrow night that will drop on Friday morning where we give literally this exact question, who our favorite DFS quarterback is. And we almost always talk about the wide receiver stack. So check for that show about 9:00 in the morning on Friday. I start my DFS prep work tomorrow. So off the top of my head, the one that's jumping out to me, a lot of times my stream of the week plays into some of my favorite sneaky DFS plays. So I think there's some interestingness between a Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, if you're looking to get different, because people are going to be afraid of Kupp and he should be a little cheaper this week. I haven't seen the prices yet because, again, I start digging in tomorrow. I think there's something interesting, Josh, with a Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp with a Devontae Adams bring back after what we did last week. I might put a little bit of money into that Rams-Jets game in DFS this week just because I feel like it's not a sexy one. Everybody's going to have money in the Philly-Washington game. I think Kyler Murray is going to be over-owned because of how bad Carolina is. I think people are likely to stay away from Cooper Kupp, and that kind of lends itself to a little bit of a get different possibility in that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to depend on whether you're talking tournaments, you're talking cash games, because you're going to approach those a lot differently.
Yeah, don't play that in cash. What I just said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to cash, like,
don't take any of my advice in cash.
I was going to say, when it comes to cash, I might be looking at. Actually, I don't even know if the Sunday night would be considered as part of that Sunday slate. FanDuel, it does. Okay, so that I might be looking at like a Baker or Mike Evans, or like if you wanted to maybe save money at quarterback, go Cooper Rush and CD Lamb. Right? Those I think would be good options on FanDuel. I mean, for cash, like I'll throw Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. I know Burrow's struggled against the Browns.
That's interesting. But, what? Historians might stay away from that.
That could be something that people will stay away from. And even if you have to save money at certain spots because they're going to be, more expensive because they're two of the top guys at their respective positions. I don't love Kyler. I think he's just been a huge letdown this year. If I'm talking like tight ends, I think Tua and Jonnu could be a really interesting stack too against San Francisco.
These are, I agree. Everything you're mentioning are.
But I also am saying this, and I haven't looked at any pricing.
I was going to say tournament stacks. I know you said you don't like Kyler. I think Kyler, Trey McBride in a cash stack is a very safe stack there. But again, Thursday is my DFS day. You can find my DFS rankings on footballguys.com. But if you want to keep it loyal here to Club Fantasy, I completely get that. Give Austin Amendolia a follow. He and I show DFS Academy will drop Friday morning at 9 a.m. And then Austin also drops a cash-focused article Saturday morning. I usually have that one published by about 9 a.m. Austin Amendolia at Austin_FFL is our DFS guy. He's going to give you way better information than Josh and I.
100%.
Caesar's been waiting to ask this question all week, Josh. I now understand the question he was trying to ask. Oh my God, I am an asshole. My apologies. He was saying, should he start Cade York or whoever is kicking for the Falcons? Not that Cade York is kicking for the Falcons. I'm sorry, Caesar. When I'm hosting, I don't have time to pick out sarcasm. I just read. I'm like Ron Burgundy. So should he start the asshole kicking for the Falcons, Josh, or the asshole kicking for the Bengals? Is the question.
Oh man, why are you even asking me this question? You're the number 4 ranker kickers. Like, what the fuck? Like,
the number 4 ranker kickers. So right now I have Cade York ahead. Honestly, I have to dig into Riley Patterson. I honestly didn't. Well, yeah, I didn't even have him ranked yet. So I had Koo ahead, and it's a home game. Let me just go ahead and grab Riley Patterson.
Look, anybody can be kicking better than Koo right now. So yeah. I think this is an absolute upgrade.
Yeah. The Koo news came out after I had last updated my rankings. I'm putting Riley Patterson literally 1 spot ahead of Cade York. I'm going to favor an indoor game, and the Falcons are an indoor game against a bad team. We're going to go with the asshole who is kicking for the Atlanta Falcons this week.
There you go.
Caesar comes back with a question that I'm able to read. PPR, if they play. Flex 1, Walker, Pollard, Tyrone Tracy, or Courtland Sutton. There's one person on here who doesn't have a question mark next to their name, and that's Courtland Sutton. Josh, I'm playing Courtland Sutton.
I mean, the answer is Courtland Sutton anyway. Since week 7, since that goose egg in week 7, he has had 9 or more targets in every single game. Outside of last week, where those 9 targets only translated to 3 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown, he's had at least 6 receptions in all of those games.
Yeah.
The answer is Courtland Sutton. You are not putting him in flex questions. You are starting him.
Josh, from the island of misfit running backs, we have to decide between Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and Alexander Madison. Oof.
Gross.
Yeah.
The Bills' run defense has been better since they got Milano back, so that takes Stevenson out of the equation. God, I can't even believe that I'm ready to answer this with Alexander Madison. Like, this is awful.
Yeah.
This is awful.
He takes over the valuable Sincere McCormick role. He doesn't, though, because Amir Abdullah is still there, and that's what worries me about Madison. I'm probably going Najee here.
Yeah, I think I would. I would feel obligated to start Najee just because it's a better team, and I know they're going to use him even if the matchup is bad. Now, I will say that if George Pickens remains out for this game, I don't love Najee here at all because they can just focus on stopping
keep
him.
that guy
There's
in the box.
nobody going downfield to take away that extra defender or two. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But the good news is this is the Saturday game. So you will know this answer, right? You will know. If George Pickens is out, I'm off the table on Najee. I want nothing to do with that. I might just roll with Stevenson and say a prayer. Like, he's been getting usage. Yes, they're working Antonio.
I mean, Najee and Stevenson are essentially the same guy.
They really are, yeah. You just kind of have to hope that maybe this is the week that Stevenson falls into the end zone. Like, there's been a couple times where he scored. It's been called back by a penalty, so his day looks a lot worse than it should. I think that's probably where I would go, Stevenson.
I'm probably going to lean Najee, but I agree with Josh. And for what it's worth, Pickens did not practice today, looking very much like he will miss his 3rd consecutive game.
That hurts.
Nino Pena, would we consider benching Cooper Kupp to put in Ladd McConkey after I sat here and told you guys I would not consider benching Cooper Kupp? Ladd McConkey is an interesting question here, Josh. I believe I still have Kupp ahead of McConkey. But this one would tug on my heartstrings. I literally have them at 13 and fucking 14. I would probably still go Kupp. I was like, God, I feel like these guys are so close. They are. I would go Kupp.
Oh, my God. I'm going McConkey. I got Joe in my ear and just saying, it's McConkey. You know it's McConkey. So you know what? I'm going to fill the Joe Rizzolo role, and I'm just going to say Ladd McConkey. That's what
Nope. I think that's absolutely fair. Josh, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. We're starting 3 people from this list. From what I understand, Jalen Waddle's out, so we don't have to worry about that. Debo, Jennings, Thielen, they're all wide receivers except for Horrendo. So Debo, Jennings, Thielen, Waddle, McMillan, Horrendo. So we're going to start, Josh, with the 2 wide receivers. I think we're both going to agree Jennings, correct?
It's Jennings and Thielen for me.
Okay. Jennings and McMillan for me. I'm starting to get a little chub for McMillan in this Dallas game, so I'm going to go McMillan over Thielen if I had the choice.
I mean, I'm fine going Jennings, Thielen, and McMillan.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. I like guaranteed work out of running backs in this situation. So because I'm swinging big with McMillan, I'm going to take the guaranteed work from Horrendo. So,
I mean,
I'll bench Thielen.
Miami's been okay against running backs. Like since week 11, they're only allowing 64 rushing yards to the running back position each week. Like that's not a lot of work.
He did throw in that. Forgot about this. Our boy Brenton Strange is an option if we want to go that wild in the flex. I don't think I'm starting Strange over any of these guys.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far. I do like Strange, don't get me wrong. And 20 plus last week, it's or 18.3, I believe is what it was.
Yeah, 11 catches and 73 yards.
Yeah, I'm fine going the wide receivers. Jennings, Thielen, McMillan.
This may actually be the same team, Josh. Hawk, Strange, or Kraft. And I mentioned, I think I said 6. He is my tight end 7. There are 6 tight ends I have ahead of Strange. TJ Hawkinson is 1. So Hawkinson's work is safe. He's tied to a better quarterback. I'm going to go TJ Hawkinson in this situation.
Yeah, I think I would too. It is close for me between Hawkinson and Strange. And it kind of falls along the lines like the one question we've been getting for weeks now, Hawkinson or Cade Otton, right?
Yeah.
Strange has been doing it, which has been great, but
he's
TJ
the new Cade Otton.
TJ just keeps showing up and doing yeoman's work. So yeah, I think Hawkinson is definitely the safe play. If you feel like you're chasing upside, and when I'm saying this, like pay attention to Thursday night, pay attention to the 2 Saturday games, right? If your matchup features players from those games where some of those guys go off for your opponent, I might pivot to Strange because the way that they're throwing to him, they're using him a hell of a lot more, in my opinion, than Hawkinson. Hawkinson's a safe option. It's at 5 for 50. You can pretty much lock that in, right? 4 for 40, whatever it may be. Maybe he gets a touchdown, maybe he doesn't. But he's got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to play with. Strange is only fighting against Brian Thomas Jr. right now.
Yeah. Guys, I see all the questions. Nobody's been waiting more than 3 minutes. I'm going to do a little bit of a show segment here, and then we're going to get right back to your questions. If you've never tuned in before, we do not answer a question. I want to be very, very clear about that. Every question will get answered, but we do have a little bit of a few segments we want to kick in here. Though, Josh, we were fucking terrible in these segments last week, so maybe we should just keep our mouths shut and give advice. We call this the upside downside picks. We're going to make 3 bold predictions each, and we keep a record. Josh went 0-3 last week, but don't feel bad. So did Ryan and Joe. The show went 0-9 last week. Josh, you have 11 correct on the season, but folks, you've never tuned in. We get very bold with these picks. We're just telling you guys we like, and we like to add a little hyperbole. So Josh, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, 25 plus fantasy points at Chicago. Jaden Reed, top 20 versus the New Orleans Saints, and Saquon Barkley, 150 rushing yards against the Washington Commanders. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is on the tip of every fantasy manager's mind right now, Josh. How is he going to get to 25 this week?
Yeah, I had to put him on the thumbnail. I go back to your offseason article when you're like, I'm going to make a case for Jahmyr Gibbs as the overall RB1.
Yeah.
And then you went through and said, nope, he can do the RB2 though. Well, here's the fun thing. He's actually RB3 on the season. So
there you go.
He's putting in the work. But in the 3 games last year,
Josh reminded me that I have a victory lap to take in a few weeks, apparently.
But in the 3 games that David Montgomery missed last year, where Gibbs filled in as the featured back, he had 18, 20, and 31 touches. He combined for 66.7 fantasy points in those 3 matchups.
Wow.
He handled 60%, 87%, and 70% of the snaps in those 3 games. Going against Chicago this week, they are allowing 29.2 fantasy points per game to the running back position since week 11. Detroit just put up 42 points and lost. This defense, as I said before, can literally field a starting unit just on IR. They are hurting. How does an offense fix the defense? They hold the football and control the clock. How do you do that? With a solid running game. Gibbs is your lead dog. He's going to handle this rock, and he's going to handle it a lot. I honestly think 25 is generous. He might top 30 this week.
That's Josh's bold Lions take. I'm going to throw Nino up on the screen real quick because they think Z Smith is going to knock out 2.5 or 3 sacks this week against the Bears. Too.
It could happen.
So, yeah, that's a pass rush and a running game is a depleted team's best friend. So
yep.
I think that's a distinct possibility. And I know fantasy managers love to hear that. And again, I'll be honest, I write so many off-season articles. I forgot I wrote that. So I'm pretty happy about that.
I got you. I remember.
Got to go back and reread it. Hey guys, I went 0-3 last week. I have 10 correct on the season, so I'm now 1 behind Josh. I was really hot for a while, and then I started getting real dumb, and I keep the dumb going this week with something that hasn't happened yet this season. Trey McBride scores his first receiving touchdown at Carolina. Cooper Kupp, 15-plus fantasy points at the New York Jets. And every week I give you a two-touchdown special. Let me see if I have my show sheet up real quick or my own show sheet. I've gotten 3 of them right this year. If you guys remember at the beginning of the season, I told you, if you get 3 of these right, it essentially pays for your bet. If you bet $5 on this every week, the odds are so that 3 will pay your $75 for the entire season to keep making this bet. So I've gotten my 3 right, and I'm going to go with Malik Nabers against the Atlanta Falcons. Josh, the long and short of this is Malik Nabers has been a target fiend over the last few weeks. It took Tim Boyle to get him into the end zone, but I don't think you go back to Drew Lock without the understanding that, like, this kid is our offense. And then you look at what the Atlanta Falcons have done against wide receivers recently. It has not been pretty. And it's been splash games, but that's what I'm predicting is a splash game. Jordan Addison, 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson in that same game, 2 touchdowns. That was just 2 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago, rather, against the Saints, against the Broncos, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Marvin Mims, and Troy Franklin all get into the end zone. That's 3 touchdowns to 1 team. I need 2 to go to 1 guy, but the week before that, Marquez Valdes-Scantling against the Saints, 2 touchdowns, Josh. This is a team that will give up multiple wide receiver touchdowns in 1 game, and I think they saw pieces to that puzzle last week. I can't believe Tim Boyle is a better quarterback than Drew Lock. Hopefully, they discovered what they want to do on offense.
Well, and the long and short of it is, do you think Wan'Dale Robinson is scoring a touchdown?
No. He doesn't have it in his repertoire. And the running backs have fallen off. You got Devin Singletary vulturing touchdowns from Tyrone Tracy now. So, and when you lose Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger ain't it. So,
yep. I want to point this out too, because we were talking pre-show when you were like, damn, I felt a lot better about this call when I thought that Tim Boyle might be the starter. And you said, maybe I'll switch it. Maybe. Dave Bliss points out this is exactly what you were talking about.
I literally said this before the show.
Yep.
I should just switch all my predictions to 2 touchdowns because that works out so fucking well for me. Jay, I don't know if you followed the show for a while. I don't think I recognize the name. I predict 2 touchdowns for 3 consecutive seasons now. I typically do terrible. 3 right in 1 season is my best season, but there are certain weeks when I can't make the show. So just to piss our co-host off, who's not here with us right now, I only do 2 touchdown predictions, and I've never gotten 1 right on those weeks. So it has become a gimmick of mine. Last week was terrible. My 2 touchdown guy scored 0 touchdowns,
on the week.
and my 0 touchdown guy scored 2 touchdowns and was the best running back on the week. So not my favorite week, folks. Joe Zolo not with us tonight, but here in spirit. 0-3 last week, 7 wins on the season. This has just kind of become a joke to him, and I can see it in his picks. No, I'm joking. His picks are fine except for 1. I'm going to leave his first pick for his last pick, Josh. So Mike Evans, top 10 against Dallas. Everybody loves playoff Mike Evans. He was also in the running for my 2 touchdown pick. Chuba Hubbard, top 12 against Arizona. He continues to eat. Arizona's not great against the running back. But Josh, how do we feel about Joe saying that young Michael Penix jumps all the way into fantasy's top 10 on his very first start? I think this is a touch too bold, Josh.
I don't know that it's a touch too bold. The Giants defense, they've just been so run down because the offense is so bad that what was a really good pass rush to start this season has become mediocre at best. And Brian Burns has been dealing with an injury as well. believe they lost Dexter Lawrence in the middle. They're taking some hits.
Yeah.
The linebackers are terrible. They can't really do anything. So look at week 1 when Anthony Richardson went off, right? This is prime for him to be able to come in when teams have no pro tape on him. None whatsoever. You're going from a right-hander to a left-hander. Now things in this offense get different, right? Because the right tackle now becomes the most important piece. Because that's the now blindside protector. So
maybe this is what Kyle Pitts needed the whole time. Maybe he can't catch touchdowns from right-handed quarterback.
There you go. Exactly. And we know about the weapons, right? Like we know Drake London's good. Darnell Mooney's good. They run enough 11 personnel that Rayman McLeod gets involved. Like he came from a high-powered passing offense at the University of Washington. Like Geno Smith is 5th in the NFL in passing yards. Guess who his offensive play caller is? The same guy that was calling plays at the University of Washington for Michael Penix.
Yeah.
And Penix actually has experience running out of the pistol.
I was just going to say, you've been hitting on that pistol thing for a while. So.
Exactly. So this has all the makings to be it's a surprise week. Look, it can't get any worse than back-to-back weeks with Joe saying Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is going to be a top 15 wide receiver. So,
well, first of all, I'm surprised. We have 2 in the chat. Austin's starting Penix this week.
Hey, when desperate times call for desperate measures,
Caesar is starting Penix this week, but I do love that Austin just throws us straight at Pitts. Left side, right side, it ain't Pitts. It don't matter. So, Josh, I'm in a championship this week. It's the league I've been talking about on our Tuesday show, Week 16 championship. Don't know why, not my league. I have Tua Tagovailoa. He pops up on the injury report with a hip today. I was able to go grab Penix. Do I just start Penix? Is the upside there? I need to win this championship. I need to rub it in these folks' faces. They didn't want me in the league, and this is an auto-drafted team.
So this is what I'm going to say. Would you feel better getting a dud from Penix in your starting lineup with Tua going off on your bench, or starting Tua and getting a dud in your starting lineup?
I would feel better about the second one. Like if no matter what, if one goes off on my bench and I start the wrong one, I'm never going to feel good about it ever again.
Well, I understand that, but like you're talking about a guy that's had a pretty solid season this year in Tua, and Michael Penix has done next to nothing.
I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to pay attention to these. I'm telling you right now, I'm paying attention to these injuries. If Tua is still limited on Friday, I'm starting Penix, plain and simple. I'm not fucking around.
And that's 100% fine. And I'll bring up Austin's point right here. If you win with Penix, you will forever be remembered. So, Ryan, we know your ego loves immortality. This is the way you get it.
That's true. Oh my God, Quincy, no.
Okay, Quincy, don't get too crazy.
No.
That's a big old no.
That's true. If I take a team that was auto-drafted and then win a championship with Michael fucking Penix, it's done. I'm starting Michael Penix on your heads it be, folks. Michael Penix. I don't even care what happens now. I'm going to cut to starting Michael fucking Penix to make sure I can't change my mind. Josh, let's get to these questions. We've had these folks waiting for about 10 minutes now. Austin gets us started. Has Gibbs, lost Monty. So we're going Horrendo, Rachaad White, or Sharbs, if no Walker. The fact of the matter is Bucky Irving's back as well, so I'm probably going to eliminate Rachaad White here, Josh. I'm probably going to go Horrendo if Walker plays, Sharbs if Walker doesn't play.
This goes against every fiber of my being.
You're going to go Rachaad White, you motherfucker?
Rachaad White.
Jesus, we are just giving the most conflicting advice
It's
tonight.
so bad, but he keeps scoring receiving touchdowns.
He does.
And it's PPR. Of all of these guys, Rachaad White gives you the most receiving upside in any given week. Yes, Bucky Irving has been absolutely fantastic. They're still splitting these carries pretty much 50-50 right down the middle. So I think you kind of have to go Rachaad White. I think since Bucky kind of became like the starter, Rachaad White's been a top 10 running back.
Yeah. I'm going to say the same thing you guys.
And I hate it. I fucking hate it because I hate Rachaad White.
Yeah, I'm going to take the guaranteed work with Horrendo. Josh is not wrong. The upside is certainly Rachaad White, especially against a not great Dallas team. Fun league question. There's nothing fun about this. Breece Hall or Tony Pollard, full PPR. I did read today, Josh, Breece Hall is no longer being reported as an injury. Tony Pollard still is, and he's still doing the limited practice song and dance. So
it's got to be Breece at that point. Like if he's off the injury report, then you gotta roll with Breece. I really don't feel comfortable with him just because of how he's been being used. But I think part of that has mostly just been because of the limitations with the injuries, etc. So I'm gonna lean Breece.
The next question brings up if Horrendo is ruled out, and I did not know that was a possibility. So I am bringing up the notes. Yeah, he did not practice today. It is a hamstring injury, and that is a new addition. That could actually change a lot of what I've been saying today. I don't like to fuck around with hamstrings, Josh. So all you folks who have Horrendo questions, come back Saturday because there's 100%. Likely to be some change. Josh, if Horrendo is out, Jaden Reed versus Jerome Ford. Ford against that Cincinnati defense. Jaden Reed is, I am blanking.
New Orleans.
That's right. At home versus New Orleans.
I think this is a great matchup for Jaden Reed. I think they're coming up on the playoffs. They need to keep this offense rolling. You've got to find a way to get one of your best offensive weapons rolling. I think this is going to be a big Jaden Reed week. I'm dialing him up in every league.
Yeah, I'll go Jaden Reed. Ford, he's had 2 good games this year, long and short of it. Bengals should be a good matchup, but the problem is the Bengals have every incentive to stack 7 and 8 in every box right now with DTR at quarterback. And the ancillary victim to that is going to be Jerome Ford. I just don't trust the ability of DTR to push the ball down the field, even with Jerry Jeudy. I think Ford suffers in that situation.
Agreed.
Nino, it might be obvious, but they are hesitant. 2 running backs, 2 flex. Chase Brown, James Cook, Bucky Irving, Brian Robinson, Tyrone Tracy, Terry McLaurin. In this conversation, Josh, I think we can immediately eliminate Tyrone Tracy. I just don't think he belongs in this conversation. So
yeah, I agree.
We're benching 1 of Chase Brown, James Cook, Bucky, B-Rob, and McLaurin.
I'm starting Brown, Cook, Bucky. And to me, it just boils down to one of the commanders. B-Rob had a better game against Philly last time. Probably turns around and, they'll feature McLaurin a little bit, Yeah, I think Terry might be, like I said, I think he has a bad week, but I think he still does better than what he did the 2 for 20 in the last round against Philly.
Yeah, I think for the same reason, I think for a similar reason that I don't like Jerome Ford, Brian Robinson, the eyes are on Jaden Daniels, which are going to put the eyes on Brian Robinson. I think that's going to free up McLaurin more than it's going to free up Robinson. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I'm going to go with the first 3 running backs and Terry McLaurin. We are going to bench Tyrone Tracy and Brian Robinson. Half PPR for J-Bulls. 1 running back, 1 flex. Horrendo, who I now know is hurt. Jerome Ford, Calvin Ridley, Brenton Strange, and Christian Watson.
Yeah, this is a product again. Like, it's a great matchup for all the Packers wide receivers, honestly.
Yeah.
It's very boomer bust. I don't hate Christian Watson here in the flex. And if you need a running back with the hamstring issue, I'm going to lean Ford over Horrendo.
Yeah, I have to dig hard into my rankings now. A lot of these injuries came up apparently after I did my last touch today. So I'm going to need to take a good look at my rankings tonight. They'll be far better updated tomorrow before I start digging into my DFS stuff. So right at this moment, I'm going to go Ford and Watson. If this were full PPR, I would go Strange over Watson. But because it is half PPR, I think Watson is in a good situation.
Yeah, because he gets chunk yards like that. So.
Yep, exactly. And then George throws one last one at us. I say last. I don't know. I haven't looked at the whole list yet. But full PPR, Kupp or Garrett Wilson playing one another. I'm not benching Cooper Kupp in this situation, Josh. Garrett Wilson has been hit or miss. He was saved by that touchdown last week because it was a Devontae Adams game. So
Yeah, every game has been a Davante Adams game. We just got the big Davante Adams game this week. Garrett Wilson's second fiddle right now to Davante Adams, but also too Cooper Kupp second fiddle to Puka Nacua right now. So at this point, who do you trust more, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers?
I have them next to each other in my rankings, and I trust Stafford more. Exactly.
There you go. So take Cooper Kupp. That's how I would roll too. So
Austin is so glad to see AOC back. And they mentioned that they should have started Jonnu over Bowers last week. Yeah, I mean, hindsight 2020 and all that. I'm not benching Bowers for any of these streaming guys. No offense to Jonnu. So
Jonnu's not a streaming guy at this point. He's
not anymore.
He's been, if I'm not mistaken, the tight end one over the last month.
Yes, I actually saw that. Football Guys posted an image for that a few days ago. You're absolutely right. So Jennifer Sons, Tyrone Tracy, Ramondre Stevenson, or Javonte Williams. Javonte's interesting because Jaleel McLaughlin's out, but that Chargers matchup is fucking rough. So I think even though I am starting Javonte in a championship, if I had Ramondre or Tracy, I would play either one of them happily over him. So at this point, Josh, I'm going to go Ramondre.
Javonte is interesting only because Jaleel McLaughlin's out with a quad injury for Thursday night.
Yeah.
So it's basically him or Audric Estime. We know it's a very hot hand kind of approach. Javonte offers a lot more passing down upside than Audric Estime does. So I think there's that value. The last time Javonte played on Thursday night, he dropped 26 fantasy points. Just throwing that out there.
Well, fuck yeah, dude. Oh my God. I'll be in tears. This is the league where I'm starting Penix because of you people. So you better hope that happens.
Yeah, I definitely think Ramondre is safer. But to me, it's still not a good safe at all. Like you're pulling one piece out of this Denver backfield that makes it a little bit easier for Javonte to actually see volume. Yes, there's still the threat of the the hot hand approach, and maybe that becomes Estime. But I think the passing down work that Javonte will likely see puts him ahead, in my opinion.
Sounds good. I agree. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on questions here. I'm going to go Ramondre, but I agree with what Josh is saying there. We're looking at defenses here, Josh. Denver, Colts, Falcons is where we are getting started. I like the Colts so much more. I've been saying this all week. I like them so much more when I thought Will Levis was going to play. Even against a tough Chargers team, Josh, I like the Denver defense. I'm going to roll with Denver right now. They are my number 2 defense. I don't think they're going to fall much further than that. I might move them down to 3, and I'm doing that now. I don't know. Detroit is so banged up. I'm going to roll Denver. They've been such a good defense this year. I'm not going to take them off the field in this matchup.
Yeah, they've been great. Falcons have been hot.
Very. 18 sacks in their last 3 games. So
yeah, they have been hot. So again, I think it really just boils down to the scoring preferences. I'd be fine with either Denver or Atlanta here. If
there is a premium for sacks, you might have to make an exception for Atlanta in this matchup. They're just they figured some shit
Giants.
out.
Come on, yeah. Giants offensive line is awful.
And then the chat went into full troll mode. Vince Mapstone said that he's starting Penix over Lamar this week. Austin used one of the phrases that I've tried to avoid saying, that we like to call being
don't
cute.
Get cute.
Hate that. I just don't understand. It's not a favorite phrase of mine, people. But I did want to point out that Austin chimes in that he is starting Penix over Tua in May. And then I love that he said it's a bad decision. Absolutely. So we're all on the same board. We're all plugging our nose in and drinking this in. It's going to be a fun week 16. Tyler.
Apparently, Michael Penix is week 16 version of week 15. Sincere
McCormick, and it was Nick Westbrook-Akine in 14 and 13. So I don't need to point out for you how terrible this track record is right now. Jalen McMillan, Reed, Ford, Smith, start 2. And then Tyler, if I'm understanding you correctly, he says if Kamara doesn't play, that's Smith. Do you mean Kendry Miller? Do we just have the basic name confused here? Because I don't have a Smith that's popping for me at all. I'm going to guess you might mean Kendry Miller.
No, I think it's Devonta Smith.
Oh,
Is
okay.
one of the options.
Okay. I don't understand where Kamara comes into that at all then. I don't know what
Well,
I didn't know
Kamara is
with Kamara.
probably an option for him. That's maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, he did mean Miller. Okay, thank you, Tyler.
Okay,
Appreciate
perfect.
that. All right, that works. Let's see.
Yeah,
Okay,
when he said if
McMillan.
Kamara doesn't play, I'm like, I think we just might be confusing basic white people last names here. Though both the gentlemen we're talking about are black. So. Anyway, Josh, we're going to choose two between Jalen McMillan, Jaden Reed, Jerome Ford, and Kendry Miller.
It's definitely Jaden Reed. Like I said, I've got him top 20 this week. He has the type of boom potential, in my opinion, that these other guys just don't have. Miller's off the table for me personally, unless Kamara's out, in which case then he gets a big bump. I'm okay with McMillan over Ford this week. I like the volume with Ford. I don't love the matchup. It's a great matchup for McMillan and that Bucs passing offense, and the way that McMillan has been getting more involved. He has 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. I don't love relying on touchdowns, but 6 targets, 5, 7 targets here and there. Like, the volume is starting to get there, and that helps when we know defenses are going to focus on Mike Evans.
I'm getting okay. And
well, I think the next question here to me.
Well, hold on, because this one makes more sense. Would you then bench Isaiah Pacheco and start 3 of these guys?
I would be fine benching Pacheco and rolling with Ford.
Okay.
I would be okay doing that. Kareem Hunt is still a thing.
Yep.
Isaiah Pacheco has not done anything since coming back. And I think people are just blinded by the first month when he was like the bell cow, was doing everything involved in that offense. Kareem Hunt is here to stay. I don't think Pacheco is really going to start getting rolling probably until the playoffs, if I'm being honest. Like, this is just working him back into game shape at this point.
I think another development with Pacheco being out was they're wanting to create backfield plays for Xavier Worthy, which he scored off of one this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And they may need to do more of that now with either a hobbled Patrick Mahomes or Carson Wentz. So I think there's a lot of things playing against Pacheco. I would agree with that as well. And then whether this is the same team or not, Josh, it's regardless, which Packers wide receiver would you start among the two, Christian Watson or Jaden Reed?
This is a weird situation where I want to take the guy that I think is probably going to have the most fantasy production, which is Jaden Reed. But Christian Watson is on the field more. So that lends itself to more opportunities for games like a 4 for 150, right?
Yeah.
Or the 3 for 90. And hopefully one of those gets into the end zone. The issue with Reed has always been he is their slot guy. So when they run 12 personnel, he comes off the field. He gets taken off the field, and they're running with Dobbs. They're running with Watson or Wicks or some combination of those 3 for those 2 starting spots. But to me, the better player is Jaden Reed.
Yep.
And he's the guy that I think they absolutely need to get going, whether it's this week in a good matchup or in the next couple of weeks as they get ready for the playoffs, because he's been a ghost for basically 2 months. He had the 1-2 touchdown game against Detroit on 2 catches.
Yeah. And New Orleans better against the run than they are the pass. So this might be a game where Green Bay just comes out and slings the football. So
could very well be.
Austin just pointing out the weirdness of the week. Sharps is questionable now too. So this is going to be just a very interesting week.
Everybody's questionable. Let's go.
Monitor those injury reports. Let's go ahead and get these next 2. Andrea needs Garrett Wilson, Malik Nabers, Lad McConkey. We're starting 2, Josh. Who are we benching of this bunch? This one's a rough one.
I don't think it's that rough. I'm benching Garrett Wilson. I'm starting Nabers and McConkey pretty easily.
Well, guess what? I agree. So it's clearly not that rough. We're going to start Nabers and McConkey, go with the Rooks, get to a championship. And last question of this segment, Josh. Quincy Davis needs 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 3 flex. So let's start with the 2 running backs. We got Kyren, Kamara, Kendry, Brian Robinson, Bucky Irving, and that is it. So we need 2 of Kyren, New Orleans running back, B-Rob, or Bucky. Based on our previous answer, Josh, I think this might be kind of easy for us. I think we're going to go Kyren and Bucky, right?
Kyron and Bucky, yeah. I mean, I'm starting those two plus either Kamara or Miller. So one of them will end up as a flex anyway.
Oh, that's a good point. We got a lot of flex picks here. So
yeah, the wide receiver room is really ugly here. No offense, Quincy.
Yeah, just for the audience, I'll read it out while Josh makes his decision. So we are going George Pickens, Jacoby Myers, Deebo Samuel, Marvin Harrison Jr., Marquez Valdez-Scantling, or Romeo Doubs. So we need two of these immediately. Not like you have to answer immediately, but we have to start two of them for sure.
Myers for certain.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought so.
Probably Dobbs.
I'm with that.
He's going to be the most consistent.
I'm reading no Pickens this week, just throwing that out there. So I would not lean heavily on the fact that you think Pickens is going to play. I don't think he's going to.
Yeah. So we got Kieran, we got Bucky, we got Myers, we got Dobbs. So the three flex options, Kamara, Miller at one of them.
So New Orleans running back at one. I think MHA is worth a flyer against Carolina, even with JC Horn there.
Yeah, I think he has to be because I'm definitely not starting Deebo. And at that point, it boils down to boom potential with MVS because he's one of the only wide receivers they have, even though Spencer Rattler's probably the quarterback, which I don't love. I'd probably lean Brian Robinson Jr.
Yeah, I can do that. I might make a case for Deebo, but I haven't dug into enough yet to fight.
Stop trying to make Deebo a thing. He's been terrible this year. Please.
Yeah,
for your own mental health, stop.
I literally sorry, I was reading a question. I messed up my own mental thought. I was going to say I haven't done enough research to fight Josh on this, so I'm not going to say it. So, get your questions in. We're going to jump to the downsides. As I mentioned before, we give three hot takes every week and 3 cold takes every week. These are going to be the cold takes. I will remind you folks, we answer every question throughout the show. Get those in there. We're not going to miss any of them. And if you like the advice you're getting, or at least laughed at us at some point today, hit like, subscribe, comment, do all the things you're supposed to do to make YouTubers, young creators like us successful. Not necessarily young, but up and coming creators, if you will. This show doesn't tend to get too packed. But if you ever want to jump the line, we do offer Super Chat. And on Saturdays, we actually had 3 people use that this past Saturday because we were packed and they got their question answered immediately. We stopped other people's questions to answer their questions. So if you want to donate a little money to Club Fantasy and make sure your question jumps to the front of the line, do so using Super Chat. Downsides, Josh, 2-1 last week, 23 correct on the season. You have Terry McLaurin outside the top wide receivers, top 20 wide receivers against Philadelphia. Joe Mixon outside of the top 20 running backs against Kansas City. And you took inspiration from Joe, as did I, as did Joe. No Browns player will finish inside the top 20 at Cincinnati. The Browns are kind of a given. Terry McLaurin, you've spoke on, but Joe Mixon outside of the top 20 in a championship week, Josh, is disheartening to say the least.
It is. Mixon dropped a dud last week. Hopefully you had a bye week, because Mixon has been that good this season to help get you a bye week. This is not the matchup you want to see when you have Joe Mixon in a semifinals matchup. KC, since week 11, allows the 6th fewest fantasy points per game to running backs. So that's the first thing that works against Joe Mixon. You remember, he used to be a Cincinnati Bengal. The Bengals used to play the Chiefs like every single year.
Yeah, it's a little
Joe Mixon has 5 career games against the Kansas City Chiefs and the Steve Spagnuolo defense. He has averaged, these include all of the playoff games as well, 3.57 yards per carry. And he has scored 0 rushing touchdowns in those games. Joe Mixon does not play well against the Kansas City Chiefs. Plain and simple. Factor in how well this defense has stopped running backs this year. This is a recipe for disaster if you roster Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. It's just heartbreaking because he's one of the guys that got you here. And typically one of our favorite things to say is stick with the people who got you here. But in this situation, I think you're going to have to move on, plain and simple. Maybe not move on. Depends on how many running backs you have and who you have. But it could be.
Yeah, and that really is what it boils down to. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you're probably not sitting Joe Mixon, but your start-sit decisions that boil down to safe floor versus high upside, you're going to want to pivot to those high upside options.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, some of these running backs we've been talking about today, you're starting Joe Mixon over those running backs still. I got way too cute last week. I went 0-3. However, I still lead the pack. Yes, I do by 1 with 24 correct on the season. And I took some inspiration from Joe as well. No Chiefs player will score 15 fantasy points this entire week. You're either going to have a hurt Patrick Mahomes or Carson Wentz. Houston's defense has played well against most fantasy positions. I'm not liking a single Chiefs player with the exception of Noah Gray. I think he probably scores a touchdown. I'm actually going to put money, Josh, again on Noah Gray to score the first touchdown of the game. The Chiefs seem to love to draw up plays to have this kid score the first touchdown of the game. No Titans wide receiver will score more than 10 fantasy points against the Colts. And my no touchdown special, which is the one I'm going to talk about, is going to be the Denver Broncos running backs. There's going to be a lot of talk around Javonte Williams and Audric Estime, but we cannot forget how good the Chargers rush defense is. They have only given up 3 rushing touchdowns this entire season. And on top of that, they've only given up 2 receiving touchdowns to running backs this season. However, one was last week to Rachaad White. All he does is score receiving touchdowns, as Josh pointed out. They held good running backs in check last week, Josh. Bucky Irving went for 117 yards, didn't find the end zone. Isaiah Pacheco, 55 yards, didn't find the end zone. Now, Bijan was one of their 3 touchdowns. Justice Hill on a fluke run was the other one. Even though Derrick Henry went for 140 yards on them, he didn't find the end zone. For whatever reason, when you get down inside the 10, the Chargers defense buckles down and stops you from scoring. And the other fact of the matter is this: Adam Troutman is becoming a little bit of a red zone thing there for Bo Nix. They're not going to force the ball to these running backs when they get down to the red zone. And Bo Nix has some wheels on him. They'll find other ways to score rather than force the ball to Javonte Williams, who's averaging like 3.3 yards per carry this season. I just don't see a situation where the Bears running backs end up in the end zone. That is not to say they're completely unplayable. If they have to throw the ball to the running backs, Javonte Williams, now with Jaleel McLaughlin out, is going to be the receiving back, not Audric Estime. We know that. Yeah. My biggest worry here is they get stopped on the 1 and Audric Estime bowling balls his ass into the end zone and ruins this for me. But again, I think going into tomorrow, people are going to hear Jaleel McLaughlin out and get really excited about Javonte Williams. And again, I'm starting him in a league. I don't have the expectations that other people do.
Yeah, I don't blame you. The Denver running backs have just been bad this season, plain and simple. Like, I don't really know who's going to get the ball at any given moment. Sean Payton clearly hasn't found his guy yet. It's going to take some time. He found his quarterback. He's got one step there.
Yeah.
He's got to find the next guy. So
I do want to throw Austin up on the screen right here. Sometimes when I'm hosting, I get to talking too quickly. That has always been the point of these segments, is you're not benching studs. You have to be prepared to be disappointed. So I slipped up and said, find an alternative. As soon as I said it, I realized that is not the point of this segment. So thank you, Austin. That is how we've always presented this segment. Is we're not telling you not to start a stud. We're just telling you he may not win you the week like you're used to. So exactly. we appreciate that, Austin. And Joe went 3-0 last week after I gave him quite a hard time during his segment, bringing him to a tie with Josh at 23 picks correct, 1 behind me. And Joe starts the show sheet with, tell Ryan he can shove it for flaming my Chiefs pick. Their luck will run out. They are the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. And then he SpongeBob's me with, Travis Kelce will be the number 1 tight end. He's the tight end 21. He's garbage. Joe wrote that in the show sheet. I don't know if he remembers that I host because he says, tell Ryan. But I've read it now for you, the world. Joe was not happy with me giving him a hard time on his picks. And his picks this week, he sticks with his format of all Saints players will be outside of the top 25 at their position. Yes, including Alvin Kamara if he plays. Jonathan Taylor outside of the top 12 against the Tennessee Titans. And Josh, I think, again, this is a Joe Mixon situation. He says Chase Brown outside of the top 12 versus Cleveland. I understand Cleveland has a good rush defense, but for some reason, Josh, I feel it in my jellies. This is going to be the week where the Bengals finally just put the beat down on Cleveland for the first time in Joe Burrow's career.
Yeah, this one, like I was trying to go through and like really sort of justify these picks because Joe wasn't here to explain his takes. But the amount of usage that Chase Brown is getting, I can't see it. Like,
I was
yes,
helping somebody.
Cleveland.
I was helping somebody at Football Guys today and said the same thing, Josh. Like, you can't justify not starting Chase Brown in any situation. He's like over.
Well,
20
yeah,
fantasy
and
points in,
even then,
5.
like outside the top 12, okay, he's still an RB2, right?
Well, yeah.
Like you're not sitting him. It's no different than like with Joe Mixon, right? But Cleveland 10th fewest to running back since week 11. That's good. They held Chase Brown to 7.3 fantasy points in week 7, which was at Cleveland. That's good, right?
Yeah.
Chase Brown was still splitting carries with Zach Moss at this point, though. He's not sharing carries with anybody. The way that Cleveland is operating right now, I like, if it were Jameis back there, I would feel a little bit more comfortable with this, only because there's a quarterback that could actually get them back into this game. Yeah. DTR has never topped 165 passing yards. Jerome Ford is not going to dominate for Cleveland, right? Maybe it's a Jamar Chase week. Maybe it's a Joe Burrow week. I think Chase Brown's still going to be okay. I think he's still at minimum a top 15 option, even if this is a, quote, bad matchup. But, yeah, I mean.
If this dude is the RB12 and Joe gets it right by the skin of his teeth like that, I'll never.
No, because he has to be 13 or lower.
Yeah, I'm going to say RB13. If I said 12, my bad. Yeah, RB13. That's what I meant to say.
He actually had a couple last week that were like right on the cusp. That's why he got the win. I was just like, oh, really?
Well, when I saw Gray start off with that first touchdown, I said, oh.
Yeah. Well, Gray finished as tight end 11, right? Worthy was wide receiver 16. Mahomes, QB 14. He had everybody, no chief inside the top 10. So, yeah. And then all Tampa running backs outside the top 15. Rachaad White was RB 16.
Yeah.
He literally wins these by the skin of his teeth last week. So,
hey, he knows what he's doing.
But a win to win,
he's not here today. All right, Josh, let's get some questions in here before we get to my streams of the week. Austin, start 2 wide receivers, full PPR. Brian Thomas Jr., Jawan Jennings, Tyreek Hill, Jacoby Myers, J-Mo, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Full PPR. You got to go JSN out of this group for sure, right? Yeah, let's go with the initials.
Yeah, right. Full PPR.
I'm going with the.
I think I'm still going Tyreek, but it's definitely BTJ. I'm still going Tyreek. It's just, I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, I'm gonna go JSN just because of the receptions numbers. I'm gonna go BTJ and JSN. So, but Tyreek, you can make a case for Tyreek. You can make a case for Jacoby Myers, but just not when JSN's on the menu. Too. So, yeah. Let's see here. Tyler Sperry. Wanted to ask if there was any starting on Surtain.
I pull this up.
I did as well, but you go ahead.
Okay. He's practiced all week in full. So he's probably not even going to be on the final injury report heading into tomorrow.
Off already.
Off the injury report, excuse me.
No, I mean, I just read it. He's off already. They said he's off the final injury report. So, yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, Pat Surtain's going to be fine. I know he tweaked the ankle on, what was it, last week against Indy. But, yeah, he should be fine. I wouldn't worry too much, Tyler. But to the point, and this is what we brought up earlier in the show, Surtain's an outside corner. Ladd McConkey will move in and out of the slot. He's not going to see a ton of Pat Surtain. So don't use Pat Surtain playing to downgrade Ladd McConkey.
Just throwing Ray Garner up on the screen who asked that question. Would Surtain even cover McConkey? Josh just initial or
might have a few against him, but they move him around the formation a lot. I think he's going to see a lot more Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer, truthfully.
Yep. So we are not concerned for the young lad McConkey, as Joe likes to call him. Josh, we got the red hot Atlanta Falcons versus the Cincinnati Bengals taking on just that depleted Browns team. These are two teams, Josh, the Bengals and the Falcons defenses in very similar situations. So
they're both playing bad quarterbacks
at home. I'm likely to go with the Bengals. I think you're more likely to get a turnover in that game, but I can see a case being made with the sacks from the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, to me, it just boils down to scoring settings, right? Like if you're getting bonuses for sacks, what the scoring setup is for, interceptions, turnovers, all those types of things. I tend to lean more sacks in my defenses. Most of my scorings when it comes to defense are 2 points for the sacks. And you tend to get those a lot more than interceptions and fumbles and that sort of thing. And the Falcons have been on a heater when it comes to rushing the passer. Bengals do feature the sack leader in Trey Hendrickson. But Ryan, I'm with you. I think that the Bengals probably have more turnover opportunities because of DTR. Although Drew Lock is no saint when it comes to holding on to people. So
ain't that the truth? Shout out to Jennifer for the super chat. 199 coming in. Ugly running back situation. Tyrone Tracy, Kareem Hunt, or Travis Etienne. They say that it's gross. They know. If there's any version of PPR in this, Josh, I'm going Travis Etienne. Mac Jones does not mind dumping the ball off.
Yeah, it's Etienne for me pretty easily everywhere else anyway. The numbers have started to shift a little bit more in his direction. I know part of that is game script dependent. This could be a situation to where the Raiders are pretty even with the Jaguars, especially if Aiden O'Connell comes back this week. So we may not see full on, we're in pass catch mode, so it's going to be all ETN. But Tank Bigsby seems like he's kind of taken a bit of a step back. She does chime in that it is PPR. It's pretty easily ETN for me if that's the case.
Completely agree. 15 targets over the last 4 games. We've seen a 50-yard receiving game in the middle of that. Kareem Hunt at best is the 2, not even the 1B. It's the 2. He's being used, don't get me wrong, but it's the 2 to Isaiah Pacheco. And I've just fallen out of love with Tyrone Tracy as they continue to get Devin Singletary involved in the wrong spots. If Tyrone Tracy was handling inside the 5, still be Tyrone Tracy for me, but they trust Singletary down there more.
And it makes no sense to me. This team is not going anywhere. Why are you even playing the veteran?
Exactly.
So dumb.
Yep. Doesn't make me happy because we happen to be already covering defenses. Josh, I'm just going to throw this one up on the screen. Number 1, my friend, the Vikings defense are my number 1 defense, even traveling to Seattle. There's just no quarterback that matters in that situation. I think they're going to go in there and just beat them down at home against the 12s. I'm going with the Vikings defense. So they are my number 1 defense this week.
There you go.
Just a little bit of a long question. How are we going to rank these 5 wide receivers this week, Josh? T. Higgins, Drake London, Malik Nabers, Cooper Kupp, Nico Collins.
It's Collins at 1. I think I'd go Nabers, then London, probably Kupp, then Higgins.
I would just flip the list over. So we're close. It's Collins at 1. I think I'm going to go Kupp over Nabers. It's close for me there, though.
But you have Nabers as your 2 touchdown special, and you're not going to put him as your number 2. Really?
Hey. Yes. I'm telling you, I'm not mad at it. If I'm looking at my rankings right now, I do have Nabers ahead of Kupp. So I'll put Nabers at 2. So it's going to go Collins, Nabers, Kupp, Drake London, and then T. Higgins.
So you would just flip Kupp and London.
Yeah, just flip the list and then flip Kupp and Nabers. Fair. So yeah, not as hard a question as I thought it might be. So Collins is the one, that's for sure. We agree wholeheartedly on that. We both like Nabers. And then London and Kupp aren't far off from me. Honestly, me and Josh are pretty well in consensus here. If you're trying to rank these guys, you're starting Collins for sure. You're benching Higgins for sure. So we're going to sit 1 in a non-PPR standard league, Josh. Cooper Kupp, Garrett Wilson, Ladd McConkey. And we'll get to the tight end question here at the second part. So these are the most PPR, non-PPR wide receivers.
Yeah.
I build teams like this sometimes too, Ray.
I was going to say my initial gut was fit McConkey because it's non-PPR and he doesn't typically get the high volume yardage numbers typically. I know he has in the past, but I think I'd sit Garrett Wilson here.
I think Garrett Wilson has the best touchdown upside, so I think I am going to sit Ladd McConkey here. Yeah, I'm going to sit Ladd McConkey. I'm going to start Garrett Wilson and Kupp against each other. So it's rough. Moving on to tight end, Josh. Hunter Henry or Dalton Kincaid. This is actually, for the first time in a long time, a good matchup for Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, it's a good matchup, but he's not doing anything.
He just
with
doesn't do shit with it. Exactly.
Yeah, he's not really doing anything. I'm going to lean on Hunter Henry here.
This has been a show of Ryan and Josh disagreements. I'll probably go. I think I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid. Hunter Henry's just been so boring. 4 catches. I mean, he did have 7 a couple weeks ago, but he's 4 to 5 catch guy. I'm going to bank on the upside of Dalton Kincaid on a good matchup. So, and then much like we just did the wide receivers, Josh, how are we going to rank Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, and Kieran? I think he just ranked them for us.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I would do it. It's Gibbs at 1, Bijan at 1B, and Kieran at 3.
What's funny is I'm pretty sure that might be exactly how I have them ranked right now. I put Achane and Saquon up there ahead of them because I just can't. First of all, I'm ranking for half PPR. So Achane just catches everything and Saquon is Saquon. So I have Gibbs at 1, Bijan at 4, Kieran at 5. And that's only because I like Achane and Barkley in rankings just because of what they can do for you. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kieran. He's just not doing anything in the passing game right now. That's why he's very easily 3rd on this list for me. But yeah, Gibbs to the fucking moon this week. There's a reason he's on the thumbnail.
And then we have to choose Lamar or Baker Mayfield. And I think there's some legitimacy to this, but I just don't think you can bench Lamar Jackson. I'm not gonna call this getting cute. But I don't think there's a situation where you can bench a guy who just tossed 5, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I get it simply because Baker just tossed 4, right? Like
it's not 5.
Well, I mean, I get it. Actually, I want to look this up because if I'm not mistaken, Lamar tends to struggle against Pittsburgh. Like they've had his number. I think he's only won 1 of his last 4 games against Pittsburgh. Let me pull this up really quick. What his stats are like. He only has 5 career touchdown passes against the Pittsburgh Steelers to 8 interceptions.
Imagine how surprising it's going to be when he doubles that. No, I'm joking. I'm not.
I mean, no, he chimes in with the rushing. I mean, 70, 65, 55, 45, 46. But he doesn't have a single rushing touchdown against Pittsburgh. He's never thrown for 300 yards. I mean, I think this is a legitimate question. Do I want to be the guy that sits Lamar Jackson in my semifinals? Absolutely not. But this is a strong pivot. Like, this is one that I would feel okay with if you are legitimately scared about the history of Lamar against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, the recent history,
hell of a lot worse than Baker.
Lamar's worst game this season is against the Steelers. Week 11, he was the QB 23, Josh. This is a great question.
No, 100% it is.
I guess this goes back. I don't know if you were watching earlier, Griffin, but when people played on my ego, do you want to be a fucking legend? Start Baker Mayfield this week and go into your championship because you had the balls to bench Lamar Jackson. It's not a bad question. We're talking 51-49 that Baker could outscore Lamar Jackson this week. So
yeah, that's probably how I would rate.
I mean, I guess, Josh, let's look at it this way. And I think there's something to think about this. They have the same ceiling, but I think Baker has a safer floor.
That's fair.
So I'll say it. Let's start Baker Mayfield. I'll start Baker Mayfield. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Especially in a 6-point passing.
I just said that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just said that. Oh.
Adrian jumps in with the super chat. Sorry, you had to wait a little longer there. That was a longer question, but we're about to break this one down for you. Half point PPR. Appreciate the $5, by the way. Half point PPR. Let's start with the quarterback, Josh. Jordan Love, Jared Goff. I just said you can't bench guys who score 5 touchdowns.
And then we subsequently said it's okay to bench Lamar for
a guy who scores 5 touchdowns. Josh, I think it's a great week for Jordan Love, but I don't think we're going to freak out about the outdoors for Jared Goff. Jared Goff 8 outdoors in Green Bay. I think he's going to do the same in Chicago. I'm starting Jared Goff this week.
Yeah, Chicago's so discombobulated right now. The thing with Jordan Love, he's losing touchdowns to Josh Jacobs. That's really been the biggest thing. Love is putting together a great season. He's thrown for a lot of yards. Touchdowns really haven't been there, especially in comparison to Jared Goff.
Yeah, it's been a weird season for Jordan Love. Yep, Jared Goff. One wide receiver. Jennings, McMillan, Thielen, Jordan Reed. I think we're both in consensus. We've been loving on Jordan Reed this entire show. Jordan Reed is going to get the start.
Yes.
Jaden Reed, yes. Where the hell did that come from? Old tight end.
Passed with an old tight end.
Washington tight end, my guy. Jaden Reed. Yes. We're going to go with Jaden Reed there. Running back, Josh, I think we have another consensus here. Kendry Miller, Tank Bigsby, Tajay Spears, but I think Chuba Hubbard gets the start here, correct?
Chuba's 100% the start here. Miller, to me, is a little interesting if Kamara doesn't play, but yeah. I think people are just kind of down on Chuba because it seems like he's hit a wall. But
I think we're going to come back to that, Josh, because we got to pick a flex here. Tight end, I think we're going to be in agreement here. It's Strange over Freiermuth, correct?
100%.
So just to recap, we are in consensus. Not one thing we don't agree on. Jared Goff, Chuba Hubbard, Brenton Strange, and Jaden Reed. But Josh, we now have to choose between Jennings, McMillan, Thielen, and I believe Kendry Miller, assuming that Alvin Kamara is out for his one flex spot in a half PPR. I mentioned earlier in the show, I like McMillan over Thielen. I think I'm going to go McMillan from this group, Josh.
I would personally go Jennings. I think he's got the highest ceiling of all of them. He's been the one in San Francisco. Jalen Ramsey does not scare me at all. They're going to move him around enough anyway. I think that's the guy that you go with.
Oh, hold on a second. Adrian, what an interesting second part of your question to throw at us here. I liked this lineup, Josh. But then Adrian adds to the question that this isn't even the team that got him here. He's just nervous because Baker, Mixon, Sharbs, Nabers, and Njoku all have questionable tags.
Oh.
Now, Josh, he paid his $5. We're going to get Adrian his money's worth here. If Njoku is active, Josh, would you play him over Brenton Strange?
No. No, I think Njoku's still a top 10 tight end. But I don't want to rely on any Cleveland pass catcher.
And that's where I stand as well.
Let me rephrase that. I think Njoku at least has a top 10 ceiling. I don't think he hits that.
Yeah. I don't think you can bench Mixon even for Chuba. God, that didn't feel right being said. I don't think you can bench Mixon for Chuba Hubbard, but I think you can bench Sharbs for Chuba Hubbard.
That I would agree with.
And then we have to look at...
And Nabers is the easy one. You're not sitting Nabers.
Yeah, don't sit Nabers. I don't care about that questionable tag. Yeah, everyone's just pointing out everybody's questionable at this point. Friday is going to be the most important day in fantasy, let me tell you. But Josh, I do want to still hit on Adrian's question. Are we going to start Goff over Baker? And I don't think that I am. Okay, perfect. So no. Adrian, don't let those questions...
We literally just said we would be okay starting Baker over Lamar Jackson. I wouldn't start Jared Goff over Lamar Jackson. Okay. So, yes, the answer is 100,000% Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Adrian. So, we like a lot of your questionable guys, except maybe Sharbs. Sharbs and Njoku are the ones that the questionable is enough to scare us away. Thanks for giving us all that. That was a lot of good info and a great question for the crowd there. Before we get into my streams of the week, Josh, Bills or Broncos defense? I have the Broncos as my number 2 defense behind the Minnesota Vikings. Bills are top 5 for me. I believe they're 5th. They are 5th. So I like both of these defense, but I'm going to stick with the Broncos tomorrow night.
Yeah, you're the defense guy. So
hey,
take your word for it.
I appreciate that. All right, folks. Streams of the week. They went better last week. Much better than they did the week before that. Let's hope we can keep it running. Let's hope we can get you into a fantasy championship with players that are available in 50% of leagues. So let's get into it. Week 16 streams of the week, all available in about 50% of ESPN leagues at quarterback. Give me Matthew Stafford to get you to a championship. The Jets allow the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks over the last 5 weeks. In fact, 4 of the 5 they have faced have scored 2 or more touchdowns against them. They're also a great matchup for wide receivers, and Stafford has 2 of the best in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. He's a top 10 quarterback over the second half of the season. I think that keeps going this week. At tight end, Brenton Strange taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Strange led all tight ends in targets and receptions last week, and I can't believe he didn't get added by more teams, putting it simply. Mac Jones loves him, and the Raiders allow more points to tight ends over the last 8 games than anybody in the entire NFL. Go with Brenton Strange there. Green Bay Packers taking on the New Orleans Saints will be my defensive pick for this week. The QB situation makes New Orleans easy to pick on, and now they may not have Alvin Kamara. It just feels right to stick on this defense. They have to come up to Green Bay. The Saints didn't even hit 250 yards last week. They allowed 3 sacks and had a turnover. Green Bay is a top 5 defense on the season, and this is a great matchup. Those are your Week 16 streams of the week. Full article available tomorrow. Boom.
I think with the whole Brenton Strange not being added by many teams, playoffs got chopped. So less teams need tight ends, and the teams that are probably advancing have one of those top tight ends.
So Josh, that's what I was thinking too, because I was trying to figure out how I was going to write it in the article tomorrow, because obviously I have to fit everything into a minute, but I have a little bit more time to write in the article tomorrow. And so I was looking at those top tight ends, Josh, and I think you're exactly right. I think most of the Final Four teams have Brock Bowers. I think a great portion of the Final Four teams have Trey McBride. And I think the third is probably George Kittle. It's interesting, though. You probably have a lot of teams. I think Mark Andrews maybe got some people here. I think Travis Kelce maybe got some people here. I think Jonnu Smith maybe got some people here. And they're not willing to pivot to the other guy. And I'm going to be honest, I have all of those guys except Jonnu Smith ahead of Strange this week. So it does make sense. But to me, it's almost like I just don't want him sitting on waivers. Like, even if I know no one's going to use him, I would rather have him. So
100%. I think that's more than fair.
Yep. Tyler, you just typed thoughts. I'm not sure if I missed something. So if you,
I mean, we answered the Bills Broncos question. I don't know if you dipped away for a second or if you just kind of wanted opinions from the chat on that, but
yeah, I was gonna say, so yeah, chat, if you guys want to help him out there, but I like the Broncos this week. Josh, let's talk underdog. So we always like to give those underdog picks. You and Joe have one. I wasn't sure where I was going to go with it, and I'm hosting, so I'll figure something out as I'm talking here. But on the season, well, before we get into on the season, thank you, Josh. You guys can sign up with code WOFF on Underdog. That's going to get you a free pick and a first-time deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. If you guys have not played on Underdog, if it's available in your state and you'd like to help out women in fantasy football, once again, use promo code WOFF. Josh, you have 6 right, 7 wrong on the season. You are picking Cortland Sutton higher than 5.5 receptions. That gives you a little kicker, 1.8. Joe is 6 and 7. He has Stone Smart over 2.5 first quarter receiving yards. He did say it's already, or you may have said it's already up to 3.5 now. For me, Josh, I would take any Ladd McConkey that's out there. I think people are going to be scared. I think it's probably too low. So whatever Ladd McConkey's receptions total is, I'll take the over on that.
I think it was 5.5 actually.
Oh, even then that makes me feel great. I'm going to go Ladd McConkey over whatever the number is. So just as a recap, except you couldn't take, you could Broncos. Okay, there we go. Cortland Sutton over 5.5, probably Ladd McConkey over 5.5, Stone Smart over 2.5 receiving yards in the first quarter. Josh, you want to defend Cortland Sutton at all?
Yeah, I mentioned this a little bit earlier when Sutton came up in a start-sit question, but he's had at least 9 targets in every game since week 8. And last week was the first week since week 8 that he's had under 6 catches. So the fact that you're getting a boost on 5.5 on the higher just feels really strange to me. So I'm more than willing to take the plus side to that, especially because the Chargers secondary is a fraud. They're not that great.
I think Tyler's stuff might have come in a little out of order here. He says he's starting the Bills and he's praying because last time he started them against the Rams. Tyler, they were my stream of the week that week. That was the start of my or Caesar. I'm sorry. Okay, never mind. So never mind. It's, if you want to know, it's a dark outline on the outside of each of their things. So I just assumed it was the same person. So never mind. Caesar, those are my thoughts as well. They were my fucking stream of the week. So hopefully you didn't start them because of me. But guess what? I did, and it cost me a playoff matchup in one league. So Caesar, I totally get it. Guys, that's going to be the end of the show. Let's talk about schedule.
Long one today.
Yeah. Let's talk about schedule a little bit because we noticed championship week next week, and apparently there's some holiday going on a week from today as well. So we are not going to leave you hanging. So let's talk about Monday. Monday is going to be our reaction show. Tuesday morning is going to be our final waiver show of the week. We're going to get you guys ready for waivers into the championship. We're not going to do week 18 waivers. It's the wild, wild west. Good luck. But we are not going to do a show on Christmas. Instead, you're going to see these two faces yet again on Tuesday night, 9 p.m. for No Punt Intended. We're going to do it a day early so that we do not leave you guys hanging for the championship. Plus, there's a game on Christmas Day. So we are
2 games on Christmas.
2 games on Christmas Day. So we are going to have you guys covered next week, making sure you guys are ready to set those lineups. So again, we will not be on Wednesday next week. We will be on Tuesday. These are not the end of our shows this week. We have Sneaky Flex tomorrow. Do we still have the DFS show tomorrow? Dynasty show tomorrow.
Already. Yep.
DFS on.
Captain is coming out. Too.
Yep. DFS tomorrow morning, DFS Friday morning. And then of course, the show we tell you to come back to because Wednesday start sits are a little tough. Start sit different day, 11 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. We run for a full hour, sometimes an hour and a half. As we get close to the championship, we're going to answer all of your questions, guys, and we're going to have the best information to answer every one of those questions for you. That's going to be it. We're going to be back again next Tuesday, not next Wednesday, getting you guys ready for your fantasy championships. Good luck. I hope it all works out. If you don't make it back next week, Merry Christmas from us here at Club Fantasy. For Josh, I'm Ryan. No Joe this week, no Joe next week, but we'll be here for you. Have a good one.